We all count on 911 to be there for us in an emergency. NBC Bay Area's local news reporting team identified a major problem and finally spurred city and state leaders to act. This is what local journalism can do, and this team did it very well. These are the journalists who go to city council meetings, who file public records requests, who have local contacts in their phones, who could pull at a local thread and discover it's connected to something much larger and call attention to it and get results. During this tough time for many journalists, this is a reminder how important this watchdog work is. Investigative reporter Candace Nguyen and producer Sean Myers are here tonight. Please come up and accept the 2024 Hillman Prize for Broadcast Journalism.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Sidney Hillman Foundation, for recognizing local journalists from San Jose, California. You know, sometimes I joke with some of my colleagues that I got into journalism a little late after the heyday, and 15 years in, and now that I feel like, okay, I got this, I'm doing some of the best work of my life, I feel like sometimes it's a fight to put newscasts on. It's a fight to keep local journalism relevant with leaner staff. And the past several years, as I was writing this and reflecting, I've seen local outlets, and especially a lot of hyper-local outlets, disappear. And more than ever, I'm seeing my colleagues and my friendly competition, the same people I sit in city council meetings with, at school board meetings, who I'm fighting against for the same public records, well, I'm seeing them leave the industry because for once, they have to look out for their own quality of life. And I get it. It's probably the most relatable thing. But at the same time, when I step back and I go to these meetings, sometimes alone, it scares me. In the Bay Area and California, we are dealing with so many deep social, public safety issues that involve a ton of taxpayer dollars, and accountability is so desperately needed, and I'm reminded with every story I do. A year ago, when I read city document after city document showing how deeply broken Oakland's 911 system was, and for how many years Oakland leaders were passing the blame and saying, I just got here, that started when I wasn't here, I was shocked. When I brought this up to officials, they kept telling me, Candace, this has been going on for a long time, as if that made it less of an issue and less important. 4 stories in, when I went to that 911 press conference that you saw, where finally Oakland's current mayor made herself available, I was the only reporter there asking her questions. That was unfortunately an accurate snapshot. That's me. And there's some pool cameras behind me. The pool camera is one guy who goes there, or woman photographer, and then they give it back to the other stations. But something like this really needed questions. And with 500,000 people in Oakland unable to count on their 911, I couldn't understand why this wasn't being treated as a life and death situation as it was. And usually at this point, this is when my husband puts his hand on my shoulder or on my head and goes, it's going to be okay. And with that, I want to thank all the significant others out there for being our angels through all this. I'm not alone in this fight. I have incredible colleagues, Jeremy Carroll, Alex Bozovic, Sean Myers, who dig through all the data with me, and Michael Horn documenting Oakland, which I just want to add, sadly, has so much crime and so many 911 calls. Every time we drive there for an interview to get stories, we have to be escorted by an armed security guard. To put it plainly, it's hard to do stories in Oakland. But I'm so grateful that I have a news station with leaders who believe that it's why it's so important that we refuse to let up. That they're committed to resources every day and to be creative in how we tell stories every shift to protect our safety. Our team has done 15 911 stories, and just now the city is turning its corner on staffing and answering times. And I'll end with this, just a personal memory. When I was in the 3rd grade, my dad died overnight of an aneurysm. We lived in Oakland. My mom was 32, younger than me, and made the call in the middle of the night, and I keep thinking, what if she got a busy signal? To add any more trauma to a situation like that by having your 911 call not be answered is unthinkable. It disrupts the very spirit of a community and their sense of basic security and safety. So I just want to thank my boss, Stephanie Adruni, for telling me to follow the money in this story and to really hold power to account to produce impact. And I want to thank my assistant news director, Bob Goldberger, for rescuing me from all the rabbit holes I always get myself in when I do all these stories, and making sure I focus on the bigger picture. And most of all, thank you to the Sidney Hillman Foundation for reminding us at all levels of journalism that this work is important and to keep going. Thank you.